Welcome back to our month-long celebration of me trying to power through my allergies to review horror films. No, it's the post-Shriek reaction, our 31 days of horror movie reviews, all part of Thorgiween. And this is viewer request week. And today's request comes from, I have it up there on the screen and my vision is terrible. Fabled Behemoth? Mm-hmm. I believe it's, yay, I got it. Her vision is better than me. Hence these. But they requested that we review Sleepaway Camp. And I'm kind of glad that we got to review this, or at least I did. Yeah. You didn't see this. Which, by the way, that Shudder subscription this month is paying for itself. Because so many of the films I had to review this month came on Shudder. Yeah, I'm kind of glad that they requested this because this is, I don't necessarily want to say it is a horror icon, but it is one of those films that has been around a while. It's got like 4 different sequels. It is the B-class version of Friday the 13th. I mean, it is a slasher film set at a camp. So it's like, yeah, we see what you're doing there. Like, it's very obvious that you were just trying to come in here and take that Friday the 13th money, which is interesting considering that Friday the 13th openly admits they were coming in here just trying to take that Halloween money. So yeah, this is like the ripoff of a ripoff. And because it is so famous, or in some cases infamous, it's weird. This is a weird film because there's some people who genuinely love it as a horror film, and there's some people who love it because they think it's a bad horror film, but then there's some other people out there who love it because they think it's actually a good horror comedy. It's kind of all over the place on this one. And then, of course, there's also the element that there are certain things in this film that have not aged well. Our collective understanding and tolerance about certain issues have now put us at a point where you look at certain things in this film and go, oh no, oh, how dare you put that in this film? And it's gonna make reviewing this very weird. It's gonna make talking about this very, very odd. How much do you know about Sleepaway Camp?
Not much. All I know is that it's a Friday the 13th knockoff.
Do you remember the Robot Chicken sketch that they did on?
No, I haven't really watched that much Robot Chicken.
Oh, okay, all right. Because that's where I first found out about Sleepaway Camp. Was years ago, years and years and years and years ago. And honestly, I think this is like one of the main reasons why anybody of our generation actually has a decent amount of knowledge of Sleepaway Camp, because I feel like otherwise this would have been one of those films that just like faded away and like everybody would have forgotten about it. Even if it had like 4 different films, I think eventually people would have forgotten about this, except that a long time ago when Robot Chicken was new, I think this was its first season, they were doing a sketch on famous movie twist endings. And it went from one movie into another, and then went into this one, and it was exactly the ending of this film. It was, oh my God, so-and-so was the killer, and blah, 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 blah. And it's literally just how this film ends. And then someone pops up in the foreground and goes, oh my God, someone remembered this movie and wrote a sketch comedy about it. I went, I don't know what this film is, but that cracks me up. Yeah, and I still, to this day, I think that is a very funny skit. And I think that's the thing that made a lot of people from my generation go, was this now? Was this that? Yeah, I would really be interested, for anybody out there who knows what Sleepaway Camp is, let me know in the comments, how did you find out about it? Because I think there's going to be a decent chunk of people who say, yeah, that Robot Chicken sketch. But what this film is about is that it starts off in the past, and we see that at this camp there's a boating accident that kills this father and and one of these 2 siblings. And now years later, the surviving sibling, Angela, has been adopted into this new family, and the mom is really weird and reads all of her lines horribly. And she is now sending these kids back to that same camp, and Angela is, I don't know the exact medical term for it, but she will not talk, and she just has this dead-eyed stare the entire time. Just no matter what's happening, just... And there'll be people like trying to talk to her, and she's just...
Like she's so traumatized that she can't speak, or
I guess that's what it's supposed to be. Except that then there is one person who starts talking to her, and she starts talking back to them.
well, there's a thing called selective muteness.
Oh, really now?
Yes.
Okay, all right. I don't think this film was aware of that. And I think they just wrote a bunch of BS, and then it just turned out that the stuff that they wrote was like, oh, it's an actual thing? Jackpot. We were actually being smart about this. You all were just making stuff up. No, film. This film is not smart enough for me to come in here and go, oh, so they were actually trying to portray that kind of condition. Oh, I see. I understand. No, this film is just writing random shit. But she's there, and, okay, I'm going to go ahead and just say it right now. This film, I don't know if they want you to think this or not. I don't know. I don't know if this was supposed to be a red herring or something, but they are trying really hard to make you think that Angela is the killer. Like, anybody who talks shit to Angela, they die. And Angela just the entire time is, just like, staring up, and it's not even like just, and here's the thing, it's not that they're refusing to talk, it's that they've got the widest eyes and this weird, creepy, like, half smile ever just. That's their one expression all over the place. And it's like, okay, dude, seriously, if you were trying to make it feel like because of trauma they didn't want to talk, you would have to still give them some kind of emotions on their face. It is just creepy, this one weird Stepford Wives expression that they have the entire time. It is insane to me how they're doing that. And I mean, there are moments where, like, the other people at the camp are screaming at her, why won't you talk? Say something, like grabbing her and like shaking her. And she's just like, while they're screaming, like, talk, say something, they're just like, And I'm just like, oh my God, if someone is yelling at your face, you would at least, I don't know, flinch, something. It is crazy how limited her range of emotions are in this film because they are so clearly trying to set up that she's the killer. They're so clearly trying to set up like, oh no, yeah, she experienced something traumatic at this exact same place when she was a kid. Now she has this weird, creepy, like, Joker expression the entire time, and like everybody who talks shit to her dies. It's such a red herring. I mean, it's so obvious it has to be a red herring because nobody would actually make this be a thing because it's so obvious. Spoiler in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Angela's the killer. It's not a red herring. She's absolutely a killer. So it's just a really bad setup. It's just a terrible setup. But I will say, the thing about this film that is kind of interesting is that this is kind of supposed to be a horror comedy a little bit. Because all the stuff of the kids at the camp, that's actually kind of charming. Like, I kept looking at this going, you know what? If you took out all the murder in here, and you took out Angela, and replaced one of the camp counselors with Bill Murray, this would just be Porky's. That's exactly what this would be. So it's like they were trying to steal from two different sources on this. Excuse me, my allergies, like I said at the beginning of this, I'm not joking, I'm trying to fight back all the sinuses this year. But yeah, there actually is like a decent amount of charm to this weird, like, Bad News Bears level of foul-mouthed camp people. Like, there's even some lines in here that I've seen quoted numerous times, and I didn't know they came from here. Like, there's a moment in which people are, like, arguing as they're playing softball, and one of them says, eat shit and die, Bobby. Eat shit and live, Ricky. And I was like, oh, I've heard that. Oh, that's where that came from. Okay. That's actually a pretty good insult. And, like, there's a moment in which, like, someone hits a ball way out into the outfield, and then it cuts to this one kid with glasses. He's just playing a video game. He's, like, playing one of those old Tiger Electronic toys out there in the outfield, and he looks up, oh shit, drops the game and starts running after it. I was like, if this was like supposed to be a comedy about like kids at camp, that would be a character. That would absolutely be a character in here. Like the guy who's, you know, he's the nerd, essentially. Yeah, okay, I could see that being like a 1980s camp stereotype figure in here. Like you can say that about pretty much anyone in here. But then there are other characters in here who, oh man, they do not fit at all. Like, the first person that dies in here is a cook who the moment that people pull up, that all the kids pull up, he is just looking at them like licking his lips like, nah, yeah, fresh meat. And he uses other expressions to describe them that I won't repeat because they're too gross. But it's clear that he is a pedophile, and he's working in this game. It's like, you should probably leave that guy out of the comedy version of this. You should probably leave him out of any version of this film. So there are some things in here that even when you're going for like, yeah, it's supposed to be like a raunchy 80s camp comedy thing, there's some things that they still go too far on. Also, this whole entire camp is just sexual molestation town, USA. That's all it is. Like, everybody isn't just trying to get in each other's pants. Everybody is forcibly trying to get in each other's pants. And it's like, no to all this. This is all bad. Oh man, it's like there's some guy who's supposed to be like getting close to Angela, and there's some guy who actually gets her to start talking, and like the two of them actually start to bond in a way. And then he wants to go further, and she doesn't. And then all of a sudden, he just turns and is like, and he's no, all likability for you is gone. Yeah, this film. It tries to be like one of those raunchy, horny 1980s camp comedies, and it feels like it goes a little bit too far even into that for it to be a likable version of that. But there are still those elements that I look at and go, you know what, this actually could kind of work. You know, you tap back on a certain few elements in here every now and again. This absolutely could be like somebody basically going, what if we just combine Friday the 13th with Porky's? That's what it is. That's what this film is essentially trying to be. And there are moments in which it actually looks like it is working. And there are moments in which it looks like, oh yeah, I can see this absolutely playing out. But then they'll go like one step too far with something. And it's like, no. But there are other things in here that I do think actually work. Like the guy who runs the camp. He's this old guy. And anytime someone dies, he's just like, all right, listen, we wouldn't want everybody to get freaked out and panicking about this. So just nobody mentions it. He's essentially like the mayor from Jaws. Just like, no, we gotta make money off these kids in this camp. I gotta refund everybody if we send them home because there was a murder. And I actually really dug him in here. Like, he kind of, to me, strikes that right balance of the how to do the weird Porky's camp comedy character inside of a horror thing. Like, oh yeah, the weird sleazebag who runs the camp. Of course you wouldn't want to tell anybody about the murders going on. It's like, oh, okay, that actually works. Yeah, there are elements that work in this thing. But as I said, there's other things in here that did not age well. And I'm not even talking about just the, like, everybody in this camp is kind of sexually molested. I'm talking about this film is homophobic as hell. And I don't even mean like, you know, someone uses gay as a slur or gay as an insult. I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about there's a moment in which Angela has a flashback to seeing her dad in bed with another man. And I think the film is trying to imply that that might have, like, caused her to, like, go crazy. Not the boating accident that killed her dad and brother.
She was driving the boat. She committed murder on purpose.
And I'm like, what even is the point of this scene? Like, you don't need to, that should not be the motive for why someone's a killer.
No.
And B, you don't even need to add that as motive because her sibling and her dad died in a boating accident at this camp. She's already got the motive to, like, murder people at this camp. And yeah, it just feels like someone in the early 80s is going like, yeah, isn't this stuff weird? And watching it today, thankfully, people with common sense are smart enough to go, no, that's not weird at all. Like, that's just, you're just being a bigot is all you're being. It's just wrong is what you're doing here. It's really messed up that they just decide out of nowhere to just kind of like go, oh yeah, and this really messed with her when she was a kid. That's not good. Don't put that in your film, no. And it even goes further than that. Here's the other thing that this movie is famous for. I've been trying to say this entire time that Angela's sibling died because it's implied that out of these twins, the brother died and the sister lived. You then, in a flashback at the very end, which is actually kind of a good final kill that they get in here, Angela kind of like forgives the guy who was really trying to force her into like having like relations with him. And then at the end, you see her there on the beach with like no clothes on, just her back to the camera, and his head is in her lap, and she's paying it. And like the second you see that, you're like, oh, he's been the head. She's gonna stand up, and it's just a head there. And it's like, but it's still like, even if you see it coming a mile away, it is a good like final kill shot. But at the end of this, you see like a flashback, and you see like Angela getting adopted by the crazy mom that you saw at the beginning of the film. And then you kind of see her going, I always wanted a little girl, but then when my husband passed away, we knew that wasn't going to happen. Angela, I think that's a wonderful name. You'll come to love that name. And then the camera turns around, and you see it's the boy that lived. And then at the end of this, Angela's standing up with like her mouth like wide open. Like that's the famous final shot of is her with her mouth open like this. And she's just making this. No, like, again, it almost looks like a mask that she's wearing. In fact, I think it might actually have been a mask, because there's no, like, expression or anything, like, no change in anything coming from her. And she's standing up, and you see she's got a penis, because it's a boy. And they go, Angela was the killer, and she's a boy. Credits. And okay, first off, before we get into the problems with that, let's just go ahead and bring up the fact that it's like, how dare you cut the credits on that? Because Angela's standing there with the knife and a disembodied head. Did they arrest Angela? Angela's still got a weapon, and she's clearly got some strength to her if she can cut through someone's head. And then, so did she just like continue murdering people at that camp? Like, yeah, 2 people found Angela there. She's still got a weapon. She could easily have killed both of them and then run off into the woods. She could have kept killing people throughout this entire game. You don't know what happened there at the end. They cut it like they caught Angela. So, all right, well, at least we managed to get the killer here, everyone. You don't know if you got her or not. That's a terrible place to cut this film. But also, I don't know if they're trying to go for like a psycho thing where it's like, oh, okay, because this person was tormented by a mother figure, they kind of transformed into something else. Because I mean, this film is already ripping off 9 other things. Why not rip off a third? Why not rip off another thing? But considering, like, I could almost look at this and go like, well, they're not trying to like make any kind of a statement or anything about like transgender people. They're not trying to make any kind of a statement about that at all, because. Like, I feel like they might have just been trying to rip off Psycho. But then you remember the weird, like, flashback to her father from earlier that served, like, no purpose other than it feels kind of like the filmmakers just going, like, they don't like gay people. And now it makes you look at the scene, it's like, are you trying to, like, make kind of a statement about transgender people, too, here at the end? Because then, this is all terrible. Boo on this film. And I honestly, like, maybe I am reading too much into this. Maybe I am reading too much into it. I would be very interested in seeing, like, if, like, there is, like, a transgender critic out there who has reviewed this film and talked about how the film feels to them seeing it. Because I'm cisgender. I can't really come in here and speak from that perspective. But it does kind of give me that feeling of, like, oh, this kind of feels like it's very, very negative to the LGBTQ community. But at the same time, it feels like the film is too dumb to be that.
Like they don't realize how offensive they're being.
Like it feels to me like if this film was trying to make like a negative message about a group of people, it feels like it would have to have subtext to it. Like it feels like if you're trying to look at that last scene and be like, okay, well what they're trying to say is this. They're trying to make a statement about this. It feels like then this would be a film that's making statements, and this film just feels too stupid to make statements, even if they're bigoted, stupid statements. So yeah, I am curious if I'm just overlooking, if I'm reading too much into this.
Like when you mentioned that like Angela had like a twin, I thought like maybe the twist would have been, or could have been, or should have been.
The twin was the one in the woods like killing people?
Yeah, like they would like.
You just made a better film right now.
Yeah, like maybe they would like swap out, like switch out places, like how twins do in movies and stuff.
Yeah, so like, man, you just made a much better film. You made a much better film right now. Because then that would also explain why it's the people that mess with Angela are the people that end up dying, because then the twin is like watching Angela from the woods, and it's like, how dare you mess with my sister? And yeah, that is a better thing. I'm sorry, I didn't think about that, and now that I am, I'm like, these fucking stupid filmmakers. These stupid filmmakers had a better movie right there. But yeah, it's yeah, this film, it's got a problem. Like I said, if you somehow take those elements out of it, it does have some problems. Like, it does merge, like, the camp serial killer with, like, a camp comedy better than I expected it would. It's still got a lot of dumb parts in here, but it merges that stuff better than you expect. But Angela is just so obviously the killer from every single frame. And it makes it, like, even if she wasn't the killer, she would be hard to root for, just because, like, I understand they're trying to show a depiction of somebody who's been traumatized by something. This is not a good depiction of someone who's been traumatized. Just the weird, like, mannequin expression 24/7 and never, like, having any emotions or anything. That's not, like, I'm sure that there are some cases where something like that has happened, but it's like, I've known people who have experienced trauma. I've known people who have experienced trauma to the point where they become reserved, to that point where they just don't want to, like, really talk or say anything. I've never seen any of them develop the Joker smiles. I've never seen any of them look like they just got gassed by Joker toxins, so that the entire film just like, yeah, and that just makes you have, like, a complete disconnect from the character and make them someone who's really kind of hard to root for. Even though the film feels like they're trying to make you root for her while also totally saying up that she's absolutely the killer. So yeah, that's done poorly. And then, of course, there are the other elements in there in which you look at it and you just go, oh no, like the dad flashback, the reveal at the end. I have a real feeling like the filmmaker was trying to make some kind of a statement in here, and I'm not okay with those statements. But yeah, but I am so glad that I watched this, because it is one of those horror icons. We almost watched this for the B Squad week. 2 weeks ago, when we did the theme dedicated to horror franchises that almost kind of got off the ground. Like, they had sequels and stuff, but they never quite reached that A class. I was like, yeah, Sleepaway Camp probably counts for that, but yeah, I'm glad that I finally got to get it out of the way. I would be interested in reading some literature about this movie. Find out, like, some deep dives that other people have done to this who might have some more experience with the actual, like, messages of this film.
I'm sure you can find plenty of that on YouTube.
I'm gonna look for that stuff, yeah, because I am intrigued by it. Even when a movie is bad, I'll still be intrigued to hear people do, like, sophisticated analyses of it. So yeah, I am kind of intrigued to see what other people who are smarter than me might have to say about this film. But yeah, that's it. Thank you guys very much. Tomorrow will be another Patreon request, so make sure that you come back for that. And I think that's all that we have to say. In fact, I'm not even going to end on anything. I'm just going to put in here that Robot Chicken sketch. Bye.
Bye. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Oh my God! Angela's the killer, and she was really a boy! Oh my God! Somebody remembered this movie and wrote a comedy sketch about it!